Is selling in springtime really what it's cracked up to be? Stay tuned to this episode for more.
The Den, powered by the Lions Group, a show that explores trending topics in real estate, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. We're a small team of professionals with over $400 million in sales and nearly 2,000 successful transactions. You're listening to time-tested experts and industry leaders. Here's a refreshing look at real estate happenings and more. Welcome to The Den.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of The Den. And today we're going to be talking about, should you list your home in spring? Is it a good idea or not? We're going to dive into that. But before I get to that, let me introduce my friends, my partners, my co-hosts, the fellow members of the Lions Group. To my right, Paul, Hammy the Rock Berry, Aspen, the Ninja Gruen, and the boss, Shannon Martin Martinez, is not with us today. My name is Ben, springing into action, Lions.
The two times you've said she's not with us today, it makes it sound like she's passed away. Oh. I thought that's the last.
Shannon is with us.
Alive and well.
Yeah, in spirit. No, I don't want to say that either.
Well, yeah. Well, when Aspen wasn't here, it was like she's got a flat tire again.
Yeah.
Don't even get me started. My windshield cracked. Top to bottom.
Oh, no. No.
I cannot catch a break.
That car
Holy moly.
Cursed.
I know.
Well, you do put a lot of miles on it.
I put a lot of miles on it.
Yeah. So
well, Ben got your groove back.
You got my groove back.
Finally, you got that out.
Hey, Ben, springing into action.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, you like that?
That's
not bad. See, just for our audience to know, Paul has asked many times that I approve my nicknames, but I've failed to comply because I like to make my own rules. Yeah, but not non-compliance. But today we're going to be talking about listing your home in spring. Does it make sense? Is it the right thing to do? And why you should consider trying to beat the wave of the listings, or maybe there's not enough buyers. There's kind of pros and cons to it. We're going to talk about that today. Paul, I'm going to kick it off with you.
All right.
You've been selling real estate for quite a few years. We see the ups and downs, the different times of market. You have sellers that ask you, when is the best time to sell? What's your candid response?
Today.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good answer.
I mean, it's like I tell people all the time, you can't sell what's not on the market. When you've decided you want to sell, let's make it work. There are different things that you have to take into consideration. Springtime is usually, or historically, the best time to get on the market. I think May 1st is the first part of May is usually the best time historically.
Why is that? Let's dig into that a little bit.
I don't know.
I mean, it kind of makes sense though, because it takes about 30 days to sell your house from beginning to end. So if you list it in May, the weather's warm, you sell at the end of May, kids are now out of school. If you're moving, if you want to move into a different school district or move to a different location, city, state, whatever it might be, you want your kids to finish out the year where they are. I think a lot of times that plays a pretty big factor.
So you're thinking timing.
I'm thinking timing. Yeah.
Timing probably plays a big part of that.
Because
for the school schedules, or
I think so, because that to me is like one of the reasons you would wait, right? Or if you have a yard that looks really, really good in the spring or summer, it all just depends on what's best for you, what you're trying to do.
Yeah. We used to say tax returns. People are getting their tax returns so they have some cash for down payments. That used to be I really don't know why, because any time is a good time to buy if the situation's right for buyer and seller. But I think, for sellers, listing your home, it's when you're ready, And
that is, that's the number one thing we do say to sellers is, look, whenever you're ready, we'll make it we'll give you the advantage in the market at that point. Let's get to market. But is there kind of an overall theme to maybe trying to beat the wave of listings that come on board? Like, for instance, I see the inventory ramp up in May, June, July. But if you go to market in maybe March and April or in springtime, you beat that big wave of competition because, as we know, competition, drives prices down, or I should say gives buyers more options. Doesn't necessarily drive prices down, but.
Well, I can think of two things. Like, you've got mud season up in Durango, and then with daylight savings time, whichever it is when you fall.
Spring forward, fall back.
Spring forward.
And you have more daylight to look at houses at night. Those are some reasons to list in the spring as opposed to in the winter.
I think it's like, we always talk about timing the market, but like, we're not the stock market. Like, it's not going to make a huge difference on, I don't think, whenever you list it, because like right now, if you've listed now, interest rates are the lowest they've been in 4 or 5 years. So, after COVID, when they all went up pretty high, there's a lot of buyers looking right now, and there's not a lot of inventory. We still don't have that much. I feel like if you just try and time the market, it just doesn't work the same as it would for stocks and crypto and those kind of things. It's just not.
Especially with a house, because if
it just doesn't work.
You're trying to time it over a year's period of time. It's different if you're maybe moving through a few weeks or maybe a couple months. Like I can go to market now. So I've had some sellers that are like, hey, I can go to market now. And I'm like, well, it's a week before Christmas. Maybe we should wait till after the first of the year and then go to market because you have a few weeks. Why try to put it on the market right before the holidays? Maybe
because
that's a conversation.
People are off and they want to go look at houses during the holidays.
That's a good
There's just so many. But do you want people in your house during the holidays?
Sure.
So I think it's like, what do you want?
To be working during the holidays too?
I just don't. I don't work on Christmas, on Thanksgiving, on Easter.
Everything
that's pretty
leading
much it.
up or after.
Yeah. That's free game. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then that's a conversation that you have with the seller. Maybe that's individual choice, or realtor preference or whatever. You get, you put your opinion there. Same with spring to some degree, but I would argue that if you were to time it right, depending on the property, that you still have this kind of buyer demand going on. You want to take advantage of that, but you don't want to necessarily compete with the big wave of listings that's is going to be happening as the later spring, early summer progresses. Is that a fair statement to say?
I think some of the factors we've been talking about over the last 2 years are still in play, though. People are, rate locked into their homes. Doesn't mean that spring is going to say, well, everybody goes, well, I'm okay with a 6%. I'll take my 2.5% and I'll move into a 6% now. I think there's still some factors that historically we didn't have. Historically it was, they weren't necessarily in the 2s. I mean, the 5s and the 6s were normal. But now with everybody being, I'm not moving. I'm not going to go and get a 6 right now. I've got a 2.5, so I'm not putting my house on the market. I think that's one of the biggest problems we have with inventory.
But the converse to that, let's just explore that thought a little bit. The converse to that is there are people that have life situations that they are having to move. They are having to buy, and sellers are having to sell. So if you're in that situation where you're not,
then timing doesn't matter because
then you're saying your argument is timing does not matter.
Well, I would say the spring doesn't matter. I say when you're ready. So those life events that happens, which are death and marriage and,
job changes,
those are not, you can't time those for the best time in the market. Those are when you're ready, you have to do what you got to do.
Hi, I'm Ben Lyons, a partner at the Lyons Group. We're dedicated to making your real estate experience the best it can be. If you're looking to buy or sell, go to sjcbroker.com and watch our informational video series. These videos break down the process and shed some light on buying or selling. While you're there, schedule a private consultation with one of our partners. We'd love to sit down, talk strategy, and give you a real advantage in today's market. You deserve the best. So take those steps, and we'll see you soon. Now back to the show.
So if you have some flexibility, though, Aspen, do you try to dig into the nuances of the timing there? Let's someone comes to you and says, hey, I've got my property where we can list the middle or beginning of March, or we can list in June. What would you tell them?
Right now, and again, it's going to change year to year, and I kind of do agree with Paul just in the sense of we still haven't recovered from our lack of inventory. So I think you're probably right historically for timing, but I think right now it's a little bit different. So right now, today, I would say let's list it in March because there's still very low inventory. You're not competing with very many people. And that is true, for most years, but especially right now. There just is not much out there. So I would say listing it in March is probably a better option. And also, who knows what's going to happen in June. Right now, I know rates are lower than they have been, and there's not very much on the market. So listing it now, to me, makes more sense than waiting till June.
I just sent out a portal, a list of available homes from 350 to 500, and there was 41 of them. And I was like,
that's a pretty big range, though, 350 to 500.
Yeah. But I think one of the things that I was looking at, if you got a 350 at 6% interest, what's the monthly payment?
$2,000?
2,200, maybe 25.
I think it's more like 25. So That's a big payment.
That's a very big payment, especially for our area.
Yeah. So I think that has a lot to do with why inventory is sitting, when not a lot of people are listing, because we're seeing days on market, fluctuate between 50 and 40. And inventory has gone down over the last couple of months that I've noticed. So I don't think it's the best time for inventory to go up. I don't think we're going to see inventory go up drastically.
Oh, so you're saying you would wait till June?
No, I don't. Well, no, I'm on the side of, I'm just saying the market in general. I would say list when you're ready, but I would say I don't think we're going to see a huge inventory upswing in the spring.
What about you, Ben? Would you list now or list in June? Let's just keep the same example.
Yeah. So in my mind, right, we still let's start with the baseline of properties are still moving and selling in a tremendous rate. If you look at last year's overall sales, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars here in the local area. So even though our inventory doesn't change that much in the sense that we don't go from 200 homes on the market to 1,000 homes on the market, there's still a tremendous amount of movement there. And in that movement, we may see some fluctuations upward as we go toward summer because more people are putting their homes on the market. So if I'm working with a seller, my response is interest rates are good, to your point. There's not a lot of inventory right now. We don't have a crystal ball. We're not going to look 2 or 3 months in the future, but we can expect that more inventory will hit the market over the next 60 to 90 days. My recommendation would be go to market right now, because a lot of sellers think, well, let's wait till the buyers are out, right? And I'm thinking, let's not compete with everybody else. We have great conditions right now. Let's get your home on the market.
And we know the buyers are out. They are looking.
Yes. And so the sellers think that, summertime is when buyers are out there. That's kind of their candid, the vanilla thought process, right?
Well, let's take the inverse of that. Or what do you say? The opposite side.
Converse,
of that.
inverse. Yep.
Converse side of that.
Converse.
Last year was one of the highest on record for fall-throughs. Fall-through rate was one of the highest ever.
It's like 40%, right? Something like 41%.
Yeah. So people are wanting to buy. So buyers are wanting to buy. They'll get into a deal and then they're backing out. What are we thinking is the reasoning for that?
I think it's because there's not very much inventory. They're going under what okay, well, I'll get this one then, even if it doesn't check all their boxes, but then they want the inspections to be pretty up to date. That's what I would assume. That's kind of what I saw for fall throughs. I didn't have that high a fall through rate, but the ones I did was well, I guess we'll get this house. And then they got the inspections and they weren't awesome. And then the seller still didn't want to fix it. And it's well, then we'll just keep looking.
That's an interesting point. I didn't even think about that, where people are like, look, there's not a lot of inventory. I guess I'll take that one versus having a whole bunch of options. So then there's some pullback there. I would say my opinion would be right on top of that is there you have that component, but you also have, I do have heartburn paying this much for this property.
Totally.
Sticker shock. And so that plays into it as well.
Well, when you're settling, I'm paying way too much for something I'm settling for. And then they're backing out.
Yeah. So I think that's an interesting point. But yeah, my full circle back, I would recommend there's still going to be competition. Try to beat the competition to the market.
Mm-hmm. And it's always interesting to say well, the buyers are looking in June, July. They're looking in the summer. But why are they looking in the summer? Because there's houses to see then. If everyone just flipped and started listing in January, February, there'd probably be more buyers in January, February. It's kind of it's all connected and it's all nuance, really, I think. I mean, I've listed my house on Christmas Eve and got an offer 2 days later. So my personal home.
I don't necessarily think that the market as a whole drives one buyer to buy one seller's house. You know what I mean? I think we look at that just for general guidance, but I think, all situations are unique. So I think if you are ready, list. If a buyer's ready to buy, they're going to buy. Just have your house ready for that buyer who needs it, and it'll work out. So I don't think there's a timing thing. I think it's just on us to, price correctly, make sure the house is done, ready to go.
Yeah. And I do see, there's an ebb and flow in the market, right? There's always kind of an ebb and flow of demand, buyer demand, softens. It gets a little bit more less in certain instances. There's a little more buyer demand. It's just kind of a wave that just flows. And if you're really in tune as a realtor, you can go, oh, I feel like there's some demand pushing right now. And that's to the advantage of the seller, but it's not something that you can necessarily, like you said, time or use to the benefit, because getting a home to market instantly is hard to do. So timing that and being true on that wave, you may feel it, but is there truly demand going on? I mean, are two different things. So I really think that you can try to get to the nuances of timing the market. Generally speaking, is there some better times, in my opinion, if you beat a rush to the market? Most people trying to put their homes on the market in late spring, early summer, you beat that and you still have the buyer demand. Can it behoove you as a seller? Yeah, in my opinion, I think it can. You all have different opinions in that regard.
No, I agree, especially for right now. Right now, it makes sense, but who's to say? Let's say that interest rates were really, really high right now, and maybe we were expecting them to kind of soften or go down a little bit. Then it might make sense to wait a little bit, because maybe you'll be able to list a little bit higher. There might be a little bit more buyers. But in the state we are in right now, it makes sense to list.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times you can, like you said, you can feel the rush. You can feel it slowing down. Right now, I think it's just kind of coasting.
I'm busy right now.
Oh, yeah?
I feel busy.
But I think I don't think there's a huge surge of buyers or huge surge of activity that's actually, I think a lot more people are looking right now. I would say yes. I'm a lot busier on the, I want to go see houses, not necessarily relating to contracts at the moment.
So that's interesting. So that's what I'm saying. Like, as a realtor, you feel kind of the nuances of, oh, I feel like I'm ramping up. You're saying it's pretty steady. You're feeling it, that it's ramping up. And so you have two people in the same office experiencing slightly different things. And I tend to feel, I'm feeling right now that the pressure's starting to build a little bit. But that's, I mean, everyone has their own take on that. And then you take that to the seller. How can you use that, right? When you don't know for a matter of fact that that's correct. It's just a feeling or a gut that you have, because you can't quantify it, right? You cannot quantify that other than looking at the stats for that day. And it may not match what you're seeing, because in real estate, just for a reminder to our audience, things don't happen overnight. You get this surge of demand that happens and starts bubbling. Homes come on the market, things close 30, 45, 60 days later. How do you quantify it for today? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the whole problem that we've had trying to track patterns over the years, is that there's lead times to all of this. And so being able to track it or forecast it is very difficult.
Well, then what do realtors always say? You say, how's it going? They're like, oh, I'm busy.
Yeah.
I'm busy. And somebody will have like the greatest year ever. And then we'll look at 2025 as one of the bottom 5 in the history of real estate for production years. Yeah, we had some movement, but it was a rough year last year. I think, yeah, it has picked up quite a bit, because, but I don't think there's like in 2021, 22, where we're going, okay, it's like, answer the phone, you've got a $300,000 house being an offer, a sight unseen offer coming in. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're there, but it is starting to pick up.
I think it's the rationalism versus imperialism, though. So you have the rationalism side where it's how we feel, right? Like, I feel like I'm pretty busy right now. You feel like you're starting to get busy. You feel like things are ramping up. So that's the rationalism side, right? Because it's how we each individually feel. But then there's the imperialist side, where we do have numbers and stats to back up things. We can say 2025, even if it was your best year you've ever had, or your worst year you've ever had, for a majority of people, it was a slower year. Mm-hmm. So I do think we have stats to actually quantify what we're looking at, as far as the residential side for that.
Historically speaking.
Yes. Yeah. There is.
Mm-hmm.
There is.
You can look
stats
backwards and see all the stats.
Yeah.
But forecasting forward, that's kind of my thought, is like, we can look at all the stats year over year, and when's the busiest time, and when do properties sell, and everything in between. But forecasting that forward, because of the lead time and the feelings that we get, mm-hmm. right? You can't really take the imperialistic approach when you're forecasting forward. because you don't know what's happening.
Because there's confounding variables that
Yeah.
might change it anyways.
Exactly. And so it's interesting to see because everyone has different feelings and different takes on how the market.
It'd be interesting to see how like a new realtor is feeling.
Yeah.
Like how when you don't have years and years and years and years to figure out that, December, January is usually the slower one.
They're my
February.
busiest months year over year.
Yeah.
But you're the only one that I've ever
Every
heard say
single
that.
year. Seriously.
And then everybody is usually on that February freak out. We're going, I don't know where my next check is coming from. And this year is different for me because all my checks are going to come in February.
Yeah.
Well, don't say that. Don't put that out there. What if
I
you
don't know
don't?
why I
What
just
if,
said
I was
that.
like, what if you don't get any more? Why did you
Knock
say
on
that?
some wood. Yeah.
No, I'm working on it.
Yeah.
You
Don't
can't
listen
put
to me, universe.
that out there.
But what I'm saying is, so this year is different than last year, which was different than the year before, which is then you get into the COVID years, which you can't,
Those don't count. Yeah.
those don't count. So, I mean, this market, I feel it's more like a 18, 19 market.
Yeah. It's pretty wild because when I first started real estate, I had no barometer. I couldn't tell if I was, this is normal busy or not busy or whatever. I would just feel like scattered. But over the years, I've been able to kind of tone into, okay, I feel kind of a surge in the market. I feel that things are slowing down. I feel that there's a lot of resistance from buyers and terminations are higher. Like these feelings are a little more tuned to what's happening in the market. So that's a pretty interesting how this conversation has turned a bit. But then how do you take that and forecast for your client? Like, how do you take that and say, okay, we're going to use that to our advantage in today's market?
Well, it's interesting because we can come into, like I have a market analysis on Wednesday and I kind of know where they're supposed to be. I know that they're going to want 20% higher than that. And you can take all this data and all the things that we know, all the experience we have, and then we have a client that has their own set of expectations. How do you make those two things? How do you come in and say you're going to be here and they want to be here, and you have all of this information, all of these things that you want to do, and then you've got to come in and undercut them.
I don't think it's undercutting them. It's a fair market value. I think that's what it kind of comes down to. And if you're hiring me, I'm not going to sell you a high number just to list your house because, like I've always said, I don't list houses, I sell houses. That's kind of the whole point of it is, you want a fair price for your property, but you also want to purchase at a fair price. And I think most people, at least the people I tend to work with, understand that. And they do want a fair deal for everybody. So I think if someone wants to be unrealistic with pricing for me, that might just not be a client that I would take, because if you're not going to at least understand where I'm coming from, because it's one thing to say, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I do want to list here, because then it's like, okay, well, let's do that. And then we'll have a strategy to move forward to maybe get to a more realistic price. But who knows, right? It might be someone's perfect house and maybe they will want to buy it at that price. But if they're coming in saying, you're wrong, this doesn't matter, I'm not already believing you from here, I just know it's not really going to be a relationship I want to continue with, because if it's rough on day 1, it's going to be rough on day 45 for sure. No, and if it's really high, it's going to be real rough on day 120 because it's going to be listed for a while.
That's true.
Well, I agree with that 100%. I was just thinking about, all of the data that we have and all the feelings that we have and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes it doesn't matter when you have that client that's just, no, my neighbor down the street sold theirs for this in 2021, so I'm going to get that in 2026.
Yeah. So then it's pivoting to tampering expectations and helping control perception a bit. Like you're perceiving this as value that you have, and you really don't have it in this market. And that's a whole nother, we could have a whole podcast just about.
That's when it's like, well, are you willing to do about $800 for an appraisal to get a true number?
Yeah.
And we'll go with that.
And even appraisals are arbitrary.
Yeah, they are. It's basically the same thing as us doing a CMA to the point. I mean, obviously it's more involved, but it's going to change next month anyways. Yeah.
And you get 2 different appraisers go out to the same property. They're coming back with 2 different values independently from each other.
But for some reason, the appraiser, that's gospel.
Yeah.
Us, we're just trying to get a check.
Yeah.
That's not, maybe you need to reframe your clients that you're working with, because that's not my experience.
Well, usually not mine. I usually don't have that problem, but I'm just saying that's kind of it's a general argument from clients that a lot of realtors hear.
Interesting. So a lot of people think that your pricing comes from realtors to make their job easier, basically.
Oh, well, you go down to, and you go down to a state conference. That's what you hear about, all different kinds of markets, and you hear that quite a bit.
Yeah,
and I hear it in so I'm in part of the forms committee, and you hear that in the forms committee all the time, that we're the evil car salesman.
That's interesting. I don't hear that.
Yeah.
I don't hear that at all.
Yeah, and the
very, very rarely, sometimes, but
yeah, I mean, you're going to get the occasional person, and the counter to that is, hey, even if you price your home at $1, we've had a whole conversation about this. The market's going to bid it right up to what it's worth, right?
Or list it at $1 million, because you're not getting that.
Yeah, might as well list it at $1 million if you. Yeah.
Something I do hear is whenever homes sell, I wouldn't even say quickly, just in appropriate amount of time, because again, we've listed it appropriately. And with people, if you list it for a price that's fair, most of the time you'll find a buyer. People say, I've heard this a few times, well, I think we could have got more. And I'm like, if you could have gotten more, you would have gotten more. That's really how it works. And especially you do it so many times. It doesn't matter if the price, if it's a $100,000 house or a $5 million house, because you're still having people look. And if it's a smoking deal, I promise you will get multiple offers. If it's a fair deal, maybe you'll get an offer or two. It's really high, maybe you'll get a little bit low offer. Who knows? It's always going to come back around to where it's going to be at that time.
Where the market is at that time.
Could you have maybe got another 5 or 10,000? Maybe, but maybe not.
And you could have waited. Yeah, I mean, you could have
lost another 5 or 10.
Another 5 or 10. It could have taken you another month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah.
So there's always the what ifs. Let's pivot the conversation real quick because we have a few more minutes to. Interest rates have come down steadily. They're the lowest they've been in years at this point. Do you think in today's market right now, today, because of those lower interest rates, now those people may be moving off of holding on to those, 3 or 4% mortgages that have been anchoring people to their homes? Do you think people are going to move off of that a bit? We're going to see a little bit more inventory, or do you think it's going to be more of the same?
Well, I do know that they're going to be releasing a lot more of the foreclosures this year, but Dr. What's the NAR economist?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. I can see his face, but
he just came back. I just sat next to him. He just came back and said that interest rates are going to go up.
Interesting.
So so all the help that we've been getting, they're saying no, it's going to turn around again or stay close to the same. So, I don't know that the inventory is going to go up drastically. I think it's going to stay pretty steady throughout the year. Okay. My opinion.
Your opinion. Aspen, what are your thoughts?
I actually disagree, and it has nothing to do with the interest rates, though, because we can say, people are not moving because of interest rates, which is wildly true. That is a true statement. But it's also, people are getting used to seeing the higher numbers now. It is what it is. If you have to move, you have to move. So I do think we're going to start to see people sell the houses, or maybe even try and do some assumable loans or some different, things. But people are going to start moving, and those interest rates will kind of start to fade out a little bit. So people are already I think they're getting used to seeing the higher number. I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that it's lower right now, maybe a little bit, but I think it's just the fact that people are used to seeing it.
Yeah.
I saw an interesting stat that says millennials who are buying more houses, they're the age that are buying houses right now, are the demographic that is least worried about the interest rates.
Because what are you going to do about it? You need a house. So, you know what I mean? It is.
And they're saying that's the attitude that most of them have. So, but we're also seeing that inventory is not rising it greatly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I think to your point, it's become the new norm, right? And the new norm, it takes hold. People get used to it. And people have had to sell their 2 and 3% interest rate homes. So those have eroded a bit. And there's not as many people holding on to it. So we'll probably see more movement, here in the next year or two, because it's become the new norm, which is good because we got too addicted to too low of interest rates.
I'd like to see around 4 and 5%. To me, 6%, 6 to 8% to me is commercial rates. I would like to see it get to 4 or 5 because I think that makes it much more realistic for people. Whenever your interest rate is your whole payment, that is hard.
Yeah, it is hard.
And lenders like the 6 to 7. That's where they start making some good money. Buyers really like the lower monthly payments. That's the 4 to 5.
Yeah, I think 2 to 3 was way too low. way too low. I mean, because you couldn't even compete. What was happening is people were just paying cash and then coming in and getting a loan on it afterwards.
Yeah.
You couldn't even compete.
The 2 to 3%'s like, I could see if you dip down, like if you needed a push in the market, for some reason you need a push in the economy, the interest rates drop down to 2 to 3%, but they don't hold there. Like they go down. It's kind of like the deal that's going to be there for a couple months and then go away.
Well, that's why there's those programs, those 3-2-1 buy downs, and then you refinance after a couple years. There's programs out there to get back into the 3s and 4s right now. Just got to be able to afford them. But I think it's really interesting.
Risk.
We all have the same stats, and we can interpret them in different ways.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, we were winding down the conversation. Boy, that one, springtime selling, went all over the map today, which is awesome. At least you're getting some real raw opinions from the Lions Group in regard to the market today. Is it a good time to put your home on the market in spring to try to beat the wave that's coming for the other listings and competition later in the year? That's for you to decide. And I tend to agree with Paul. If it's the right time to sell it. Aspen is the same way. But I also have a little bit extra layer on there that if you can beat the competition to the market, then it's probably a good thing for you as well. But thank you for listening to this episode of The Den. If you like our content, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, go to our Facebook page. We have all kinds of relevant information we're putting out daily there. And you can always go to sjcbroker.com and schedule a private consultation with any one of us here at the Lions Group. We'd love to sit down with you, whether you're buying or selling, commercial or residential, and give you an advantage in today's market. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Den. Till next time, we'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Den, powered by the Lions Group. Hit the subscribe button to keep informed and check the show notes below for direct links to our buyer and seller video series. The buyer and seller video series can give you an inside track on taking the right steps in real estate. If you'd like to learn more about the Lions Group or to schedule a consultation, go to sjcbroker.com. Complex markets require complex strategies. The Lions Group can give you a true advantage in any market. Whether you're buying or selling, residential or commercial, contact us directly at sjcbroker.com. We're time-tested experts with a client-first approach, and we'll see you next time in The Den.